Megan is Missing is a 2011 found footage horror movie centering on best friends Megan and Amy. The girls are basic, typical high school students who meet a guy online. Nothing about this is unusual until Megan goes missing. Her best friend Amy searches for her and confronts the guy she met online until she too is abducted by him. We learn the extremely unfortunate fate of the two girls in some very gruesome and very NSFL found footage scenes near the end of the movie. If you have not seen the movie, be warned that these scenes are disturbing. It's the kind of cautionary tale that never really leaves you. When someone says they met someone online, this is what pops into your head. This is what good horror should do. Megan is Missing turns the ordinary into something completely terrifying and disturbing. Imagine the most hellish relationship you have ever had and add a village of creepy smiling Scandinavian folks and hallucinogenic concoctions and an exhausting dance contest and lots of flowers and a sense of isolating dread, and you get the truly weird and disturbingly captivating Midsommar. The couple in the movie takes a trip to Sweden for a break in a village who invite the newbies into all their increasingly kooky rituals and competitions. At first, everything seems peculiar but okay because of the beautiful surroundings. But there's a rustic pyramid-shaped yellow temple that no one's allowed to enter. But hey, every culture's different, right? There are dark secrets and traditions at play. However, in between, Danny and Christian's personal implosion becomes intertwined with the cult craziness in the movie. Midsommar is not scary per se, though it is a tough watch because of the unnerving imagery from almost the very beginning of the movie. It's all very artistic and gorgeously rendered, and Astor, the director of the film, films the movie in stark daylight, both to capture a Swedish land that is not seeing a lot of nighttime during the solstice, and to make the most terrifying stuff that much more visually arresting. It's really quite remarkable that Saw was as successful and influential as it was considered it was not originally even going to be getting a cinematic release. It's a simple idea. Two guys awake in the worst bathroom since Trainspotting, chained to a pipe and with no memory about how they even got there. When they eventually see squabbling and doling out blame each other, they both try and work out why they are in their current predicament and attempt various escapes. All the while, a group of cops and a serial killer who has never killed anyone and who in all likelihood is pulling everyone's string. Much of the criticism leveled at Saw seems to come from those who either have seen the movie or those who are just conflating what they have read about the film series and what it represents. For one thing, the first Saw isn't actually that graciously gory. There are nasty ideas, sure, and the odd blood splatter, but we don't actually see that much, and clever editing is employed pretty much throughout. I don't know how to accurately rate the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's gross, dirty, dated in some ways, and definitely not the film its reputation and sequels might lead one to believe. But on its own, I found it to be a singular work, one which explores the absolute evil which lurks just off the beaten path. Misdirection and misinformation play a central role in the experience of watching this movie. From its opening narration and neutral exposition to the unhinged depravity lurking inside the Sawyer home. Expect a group of vaguely shallow teenagers to engage in the typical horror film feature, but the characters here are not looking for that. They want to visit an old house, and on their way they pick up a hitchhiker. Everything that follows is a spiral downwards into a dirty, disgusting hell, which grows more nightmarish and horrific with each passing. The brutality of this movie is more in its tone, characters and cutthroat editing than in the actual violence. The movie shows us that evil is real and is closer and more vile than we could ever anticipate. Leatherface is what people remember, and rightly so. He's a work of deranged genius, and his pig-like veils are so visceral, so disgusting, and wrong on a fundamental level that his hulking frame and freakish speed are made all the more unsettling in this movie. This grim death sets the tone for the David Fincher 7, one of the darkest and most merciless movies ever made in the Hollywood mainstream. It will rain day after day, they will investigate death after death. In the movie, there are words scrawled at the crime scenes. The fat man's word is on the wall behind his refrigerator. Gluttony. After two of these killings, Miles realizes they are dealing with a serial killer who intends every murder to punish one of the 7 deadly sins. 7 takes place not in the world of country house murders but in the lives of 2 cops, one who thinks he has seen it all and the other one who has no idea what he is about to see. In the movie, the killer turns himself in when the movie still has half an hour to go. It's more of a character study. Audiences found that the original ending is too horrifying. When the movie was first shown to the public, approximately 100 people walked out of the theater during because of its excessive violence. It is a repulsive thing to watch, perhaps made it even more repulsive by the fact that you know your feelings of disgust are pretty much what the director of this movie wants you to feel. The house that Jack built runs through a series of killings called incidents. Jack is a psychopath by numbers, practicing smiling in the mirror so he can perform empathy and dully holding forth on the practical logistics of killing women and occasionally children and men. This movie is about Henry who resides alone in a bleak apartment. When he discovers that an earlier fling with girlfriend left her pregnant, he marries the expectant mother and has her move in with him. Things take a decidedly strange turn when the couple's baby turns out to be a bizarre lizard-like creature that won't stop wailing. The thing about Eraserhead is that it never gets less disturbing, never loses the sense of a small but indelible psychic trauma, a dream of dark and troubling things, and is a movie people viewed as there is life before you have seen it and life after you have seen the movie. Eraserhead could feel like stone-faced comedy, blessed with the flawless timing of Nance. But its darkness was dark indeed. Watching it can feel like a ghost story. This movie is all over the place. While it never ditches the goofy vibe, once Wallace gets kidnapped, the story shifts into an embellished captivity narrative both distinctly unsettling and patiently absurd. The grotesque physical transformation forced on Wallace is too outrageous. The movie stars Justin Long as a US podcast hosting Canadian named Wallace Britton, who arrives at the home of a man named Mr. Howe to interview him about his life and adventures at sea. But Mr. Howe has other plans for Wallace that involves a transformation, and the American learns that the man has a dark secret involving a walrus. Two pretty but ditzy American girls are on a road trip through Europe. In Germany, they end up alone at night when their car breaks down. They take shelter in an isolated villa. They wake up in the morning to find themselves in a makeshift hospital along with a Japanese man. Here they meet a psychotic German surgeon whose lifelong fantasy is to connect humans together via their gastric systems. The daughter in the movie drugs the girls and throw in an Asian guy and sew them together ass to mouth to create the world's first Siamese triplet. How insane do you have to be even conceive such an idea, let alone try to bring it to life? It's wholly weird at its best. This movie is about during a rescue mission into the Amazon rainforest, a professor stumbles across lost film shot by a missing documentary crew whose goal was to study the region's indigenous cannibalistic tribes. On February 7, 1980, Cannibal Holocaust had its petrifying premiere in Milan. 4 years later, the movie was banned in the US, Australia, Norway, Singapore, and many more countries. So startling was the Italian horror about a rescue mission set in the Amazonian rainforest that it was banned in the UK until 2007. With a name like Cannibal Holocaust, you don't exactly expect a cartoon about bouncing bunnies. And yet the list of taboos broken by this delinquent of debauchery is surprisingly extensive. There is graphic sex, brutal murder, and real animal cruelty. This movie is about a married couple when having sex. Their infant son is in a nearby room, falls out of a window to his death. She becomes distraught and is hospitalized, but her husband, who is a psychiatrist, attempts to treat her. Deciding that she needs to face her fears, he takes her into a cabin in the woods where she spent a previous summer with the boy. Once they are there, she becomes more unhinged and starts perpetrating sexual violence on her husband and herself. The movie moves beyond realism when Defoe asks his wife to imagine Eden. It's best to read this as an invitation to a parallel world, a psychological one. As they travel to a metaphorical cabin in the woods, the forest, the cabin, the animals, including a ridiculous talking fox, are familiar horror symbols, but the gender war is pure director's vision. Honestly, it pictures satanic and sick side of humanity. This movie is about a group of fascists round up 9 adolescent boys and girls and subject them to a 120 days of physical, mental, and sexual torture. Viewers will feel sad, disgusted, lost, angry, hopeless, and horrified. Some of the scenes in Salò will stay with people forever. However, if one can see past the grotesque and evil acts committed upon the hopeless young teens in this movie, the overpowering political meaning shines through like a torch in a pitch black room. Salo just shows how wild the human race can be and still is. A Serbian film follows the story of Milos, an ex-porn star who is struggling to support his wife and 6-year-old son Peter. During his prime, Milos was well known for his skills on set, which included his impeccable stamina and his ability to maintain an erection long after ejaculation. For this reason, Milos is seen as the ideal candidate for a new wave of artistic pornography. A man named Werkheimer offers him a starring role in an ambiguous film. Werkheimer does not disclose much information about the subject matter of the film. However, he offers Milos an enticing amount of money that Milos simply cannot refuse. After signing a contract and agreeing to the ambiguous terms and conditions, Milos finds himself unable to escape from a spiraling downfall of pain, misery and debauchery. He is drugged and forced to partake in horrible, traumatizing and unspeakable sexual acts. This movie is about a young reporter who begins to unravel the secrets of an underground myth, snuff films. Soon she falls in a gruesome spiral of shocking images not suited for the faint-hearted. Investigation on snuff films and on to the true meaning of violence. This is the work of utter evil and sheer cruelty of the highest order. Even if you are familiar with the works of extreme cinema, this one rises to an even higher level than that. Upon watching this movie, people got the impression that it was a work of hatred towards humanity and without a shred of apologetic or good intentions. It depicts acts of violence from characters without a shred of redeemable qualities. Mind you that the movie never pretends to be anything that it's not, and it promises on what it delivers. Sheer torture not only for the characters but for the viewer as well. This movie is about showing of scenes of gruesome deaths from around the world, both real and reenacted. It is regarded as one of the most depraved films ever made. A documentary full of autopsies, plane crashes, and executions. Guinea Pig Devil's Experiment is a 1985 Japanese horror movie written and directed by Satoru Ogura, and the first film in the Guinea Pig film series. The movie depicts a group of 3 men who graphically abuse a woman in a number of ways. August Underground is a 2001 American exploitation horror movie directed by Fred Vogel and written by Vogel and Alan Peters. The movie stars Vogel as a serial killer named Peter who kidnaps and kills several innocent people, while his unnamed accomplice, played by Peter, films and documents the murders throughout the movie.